We are talking today about the scourge of homelessness and drug addiction in our city streets. And I'm thrilled to have Susan Stevens, a city councillor in the City of London, who has been attacked for speaking about topics that the citizens of her city are very interested and concerned about. And she is being attacked by unelected bureaucrats who are benefiting from the problem in many cases, and in my opinion, and are unwilling to be criticized, scrutinized, or questioned about their ideology of the only way to do things. And Susan, I have been watching her for a while. She is putting herself out there for the people of London to try to speak to them. And she has been the victim, I believe, of attacks from people within the city that have affected her livelihood, her ability to do the job for citizens. And so I don't want to talk that much more. I just want to introduce Susan and allow people in the region to get to know the fight that you're fighting and what you're experiencing, trying to do the right thing as an elected official. So thank you for coming today, Susan.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
So how about a nice little intro in terms of, what has gotten you into a conflict that you never really wanted to get into, from what I can tell?
Well, I chose to represent a ward that is, the ground zero, I call it, for the drug crisis in our city. And I knew that I had questions and potentially wanted things to be different than what was happening currently. But I did not realize how unacceptable it was going to be to in any way question or shine a light on the current practices.
Yeah, what I've seen, I was writing about it the other day, is if we were to look 10 to 15 years ago, what our city's downtown core looked like and what they look like today, the contrast is incredible. But because it happened gradually, people have just kind of like the frog in the boiling water scenario, where because it was gradual, nobody is paying attention to it. And so now there's a lot of people who just accept that we'll have people in the downtown corridor defecating on the streets, breaking into cars, ruining small businesses, doing things that were considered illegal or unacceptable in the past. Now we're just treat it like, because it's been this slow crawl. And there are not a lot of politicians talking about something as significant as the destruction of our cities. And the city should reflect the health of a country. And when you walk in the downtown of any city, small, medium, or large today, everybody is struck by the drug use, the poverty, the vandalism. How did you start? When did you start caring about this, or what kind of triggered you to get into this issue?
Well, seeing that, right?
Yeah.
Seeing the changes in the downtown. There's always been homelessness, but it's not been scary. It's not been the open drug use. It's not been the amount of people, and the businesses weren't suffering the way that they have been. And to allow that to just continue unquestioned doesn't make any sense, right? They keep asking for more money. Oh, we just need more money. But what are we doing with the money?
We're going to get into that because that's really interesting. But before we go there, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did before you got into politics and why you got into politics? Because you've been portrayed by some as an ogre who hates human beings. And this is just not my experience.
Well, now I understand why politicians don't talk about it, right? Naively, I didn't know how active the drug activists are in the city. And so there's an agenda that's being played out, and any questioning or even shining a light on what it is that they're doing ends up being perceived as an attack, and then they attack back. But I was an accountant, and I had a practice downtown for 10 years. I sold that and went into leadership and character development. There was a company that did training across North America, and I worked with them for 6 or 7 years in coaching and leadership training, leadership at all levels, not just corporate, but leadership in your life, in your neighborhood, in your community. And then I left that organization, and I was wondering what to do next. I was planning to start a consulting company and try to help small businesses because my heart was breaking for them. I'd seen how hard it was to be a small business before COVID and before all of this. And I was very disappointed in politics at all levels of government and was thinking about not voting for the first time.
Wow. And you grew up in the London core?
I've lived downtown for 20 years.
20 years. Yeah. So you've seen what's been going on in London. You're helping people. The irony of you being in leadership and character and then getting into politics and dealing with people. Because leadership is about having the courage to say things that can be unpopular in order to get the mission that we need. And the leadership that I see being pushed across London. And this is my interview with you. I asked you here, so I'm sharing my opinion. And if any of those people want to come on and debate me, you have an open invitation to sit right here, and I will debate you on your policies, and you can't report me to the Integrity Commissioner. But I'm just saying, it's hilarious that I can sense in you that you truly have character, and you don't want to vilify anybody for the sake of it. You just want to find a solution, and you have, through your career, shown the courage to speak when it has. And so you run for office, first time running for politics as city councillor?
Yep. And I didn't know how it was done. I just thought, okay, well, if I'm not going to vote, then I guess I get to put my name on the ballot, right? If you get to that point. So I put my name in, and it was just me and one other person for safety out there. And I just knocked on doors. I love talking to people. I actually had signs from somebody from a few elections ago, and I would just come home each night and put a tape over their name and hand letter my name on, and then go put my sign out on their lawn. And I did it every day, and I was loving it. And people seemed to like the idea that I had no involvement in politics, that I was an accountant.
So there's two things going against you in the virtue signaling Olympics that are current municipal politics. Is you actually understand numbers and businesses, and you're somebody of character and leadership. And so, throw that into politics. It's like, it's just politics that has a tendency to eat up people who care, but you have the resilience to go through. So you win your riding.
Yeah.
And tell us, I think people are just interested across North America when you have somebody of solid character and business background at their first foray into this type of political world that you went into. What was it like?
Well, it was definitely eye-opening. Truthfully, I didn't follow municipal politics previously. So the whole summer I was campaigning. When I was working on the signs, or every night I was watching committee meetings to get up to speed to find out how municipal politics worked, and get myself ready for the opportunity if I was to get it. And I said to people at the door that, I wanted to address the crisis that our city was facing, that I wanted accountability around finances and safety.
What year was that you were elected?
2022.
Okay, so you had seen the city decline into a zombie wasteland in some cases. And so did you run on that platform? Specifically?
Yep, homelessness and addiction, I absolutely did, And I talked about Haven for Hope in San Antonio and what was done there.
And what was done there?
Well, they, at a time when they were moving away from shelters, San Antonio put $100 million into a facility that allowed for people to recover at their own pace. They said that the pathway into homelessness was unique and the pathway out of it was unique as well. And so instead of doing a 6-month program or 12-month program, people could walk their journey through trauma, through addiction, through whatever kind of mental health they had. They could take their time and recover and stay as long as they needed to. And they also had an area where people who weren't ready to choose into health and recovery yet were able to be. And they found, and it was just outside of the downtown core, it was run by the Salvation Army, and they had tremendous success. They had, I think, over 1,000 people find their way to health and well-being and able to live independently. And the downtown core was safer after they put that in than it was before.
Okay, so you came to government with some solutions, and then you encountered the obstacle that everybody does who sees the inner workings, is that the entrenched bureaucrats really have the power. And they don't want somebody to come in and disrupt their cart.
Yeah, I mean, in the summer of 22, there'd been a hunger strike on the front lawn of City Hall. And so I was elected in October, sworn in November. And, in part of the introductions, we get interviewed and say, what is it that we're interested in doing? And I was absolutely, homelessness and addiction was one of the top issues for me.
What was the hunger strike for?
Well, it was interestingly, some of the people from the agencies saying enough with the excuses, people are dying. And so they wanted people to be helped. And
so they went on a hunger strike?
So they went on a hunger strike, and they settled it, and there was an agreement that certain things would be done. So this was while we were campaigning.
Oh, wow.
So when I came in, I was really eager to deal with this issue. And I was told right away, oh, you're going to like what's happening. We've got these plans. And it was this whole of community system response. So I eagerly signed up for the first summit and then was told, we'd prefer you didn't attend. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, this is my number one issue. It's in my ward. Like, I'm really interested. And they said, well, we just really prefer, it can be polarizing and inflammatory to have politicians there. So we're going to ask you to just step back on this one and trust us, So
Who is us?
the city manager.
So an employee of the city is telling the elected official who's got carriage of this location where, most of these issues are, telling you not to go there.
Asking me not to go, and the others. So I honored that request. The second one, I said, can I go to this one? And I was told the same thing.
Why do you have to say, can I? Because you say, can I?
I'm new, right? Yeah. And I'm being told by the city manager that me being there would be a problem. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I may have needed the ogre in me a little early. Yeah, so the second one, they said, no, please, again. The third one, I now went to the mayor and said, I need to be at these. Yeah. I want to go. And he said, okay, let me talk. Then came back and said, they're still asking us not to be there. No politician at any level was there.
Who else was there?
So it's the 70 agencies, 200 people. It's the police, the fire, the paramedics, the city, the agencies, the hospitals.
So the mayor doesn't even go to this?
No.
So who's in charge of it?
Well, my understanding was it was the city manager and the deputies of social services, the deputy city manager.
They're not elected?
Unelected, no.
Who hires those people?
The council hires the city manager. Yeah. The city manager hires the others. So 3 summits happen, and then in February they announced this whole of community system response. We haven't even had briefings from these, no updates or anything. We get invited to the media announcement explaining what's going to be happening. I was very unhappy. There's some emails I sent privately expressing my disappointment in, not being more informed than we were. And then slowly this thing rolled out without us overseeing it or even knowing about it. We were just being told this was this plan. And when I asked questions about it, we were told as a council that they were building a bridge as we walk across it. And so we would just sort of know as we went along. So it's been a challenge. And so there was this system that was being implemented. Politicians weren't invited. The people weren't invited either, right? No community associations. So really the public was not invited to this table. And what it's turned out to be, it was supposed to be this whole of community system response, but it's really been about how to care for the highest need people in our population and improve the working conditions of the agencies.
It's interesting they use the word community, but it's not really representative of the community. It's representative of the people who are paid dealing with the crisis.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that I've talked about a lot is once things get going, the people who are behind it will always advocate for more responsibility, for more funding, for more pay, because that's how they define themselves. That's how they get compensated. They're not going to talk themselves out of a job. And often I found some of this managerial bureaucratic class will actively resist solutions that reduce budgets in the area because they lose influence. They've become addicted to the influence, the microphone and the paycheck. And so they actually work against the community, but they're not self-aware enough to know. They think it's because they're being virtuous, but really it's pure self-preservation and selfishness. And so did you have allies in the council when you were fighting this, or was it Susan alone?
It was mostly me alone. Councillor Pribble and I both were wanting to have more information. We did attend, at one point we just said to the city manager, we're going. And we're just letting you know we're going and we'll sit in the back. And we did attend 2 of them. And there was tons of information that, again, was never shared with council.
Wow.
And so this is why I've been complaining. The reports that were coming to council were like a diary of meetings, but there was no meat to it. There was no information. There was no heads up. There was no input from us. The recommendations came requesting our approval and with an urgency and emergency status that there was no time for reflection or,
It was just being fed up to council for a rubber stamp.
Yep.
It really is what it was.
Yep, it was.
There's an arrogance to that, isn't there? Like in terms of those people thinking that they can just dictate to elected officials.
I think so. And then even with that hunger strike, and we were in lame duck status. Council was not me, but the previous council. And so under delegated authority, the city manager allocated out $5 million worth of winter response funding about a week before we were sworn in. So it was about November the 8th. We were sworn in November 15th after being elected October 22nd. $5 million. And some of those contracts were for 1 year or for 2 years. One was for a new 24/7 women's shelter for 15 beds. That was going to be $650,000. It came to us not for approval, just to let us know this had been done. And it was 8 lines just saying the agency, what they were going to do, and the amount. And I wondered at the time, like, why do a 2-year contract for a new shelter or a 1-year contract for a new shelter under delegated authority versus something urgent? And then as it turns out, one of those became a hub. And the other one was the setting up of a new shelter for sex workers. That, again, was another thing that I not only questioned, but just brought into light with the public who they were, what they stood for, from their website, from their social media pages. And it was deemed to be an attack because it seems like the public information and sharing of what they were and the services that they were offering was not something that they wanted a light shone on.
To me, it's such a huge thing that we're not dealing with in society is this element of compelled thought and compelled thinking, right, or compelled speech, where these people who wrap themselves in morality say you're attacking them if you just ask a question or if you just have transparency. Like it's actually a way we've abdicated responsibility for our governance because these people have too much influence. Yeah. And as soon as you ask them tough questions or just show the public what's happening, they're like, you're attacking us. And then that's kind of, I think that's what brought us together is that response to it. But is there anything more in the development of this issue we should talk on?
Well, it's that what's coming to be more clear is the fact that not only is the public not getting the information and the details, which includes council, because I don't get anything that isn't public, which a lot of people don't know. They think that I should be able to access anything. And I certainly thought when I ran that I was going to have some influence, some ability to at least be 1 vote out of 15. But to have all of this decided and come forward without us participating, and then having to file and being told to file Freedom of Information requests to get copies of contracts that this council has approved.
And the city is paying for.
I paid for it out of my expense account. Yeah, the city's paying for the contract or at least allocating provincial or federal funding that we get.
And you guys can't see the contract.
And I wasn't able to do it without a Freedom of Information. And then when I got many of them, they were redacted. All the financials were redacted.
Who was redacting them?
The city clerk's office.
So who's giving the direction as to what to redact?
Well, they're quoting from the Freedom of Information Act, but it says that it's due to the identifiable personal individual information, which doesn't really make sense. Like unless one person was taking all the money, which I'm sure isn't the case for any of them, it doesn't make any sense. But it's something that I'm going to be bringing forward to council to find out like what is going on here. Why can we not? We're told it's private information, but the public doesn't believe that, and nor do I. Between a municipal government and a registered charity, we should be able to get. We're talking about a 4 or 5 line budget. Is all that I'm That's all that's in the contract, and it's redacted.
I just loved my spidey senses say that somebody from the other side is involved in the redactions. Like it looks like a deliberate campaign to keep city councillors.
Well, it's also a 4-month process while I'm waiting for their approval for me to see it. And then these agencies, many of them are filing complaints against me as well. So you've got the public electing an elected official that they want to speak for them. And then I find out, based on the reprimands and the sanctioning of my pay, I'm actually not allowed to speak on their behalf. And then you've got agencies that are receiving the funding, filing complaints that are stopping the public's elected official from speaking.
All right. Well, we're jumping into the meat of of why this fascinates me and should fascinate every concerned citizen is that we elect an official who then wants to see what's going on with taxpayer money and question policies that might be hurting the constituency. And if you question them, the bureaucrats within these agencies that are benefiting from the contract money put a complaint in against the councillor that then goes to the integrity commissioner that then results in you losing 2 months' pay. Like, this is bonkers.
Well, it's the recommendation comes to council, but it's council that is the only one that can reprimand me or issue the sanction of pay. So my colleagues have voted both times to support the recommendation to sanction me.
But if the integrity commissioner hadn't have recommended it, they couldn't do it?
That's right.
So this...
I believe they need the recommendation.
They need a recommendation, right?
But they could have done more. They could have done 30 days pay. They could say, no, we're not going to do anything.
So there's an element of majority rule in city councilors. So if most of the city councilors are supportive of these agencies getting the contracts and they want to keep the status quo because of their politics.
Yeah.
So what's interesting there, though, is you have a constituency in a ward that you need to take care of, right? So you could be an ultra-educated liberal in a suburb ward where you don't have this issue. So that person's constituency isn't dealing with it, but because their politics are incredibly liberal, they can sanction you, even though you're sitting on the ground, trying to work for the small business that's getting vandalized or that's getting closed down.
Every day. Every day. Like, I deal with despairing calls every single day. There's vulnerable people that live in that area that feel like shut-ins, that listen to screaming all night long, that watch fires out their window. There's businesses that have their internet lines cut every night, that they're broken into every night. They're cleaning up feces and needles and clothes. They're worried about their staff on shift. They're worried about their customers.
This is where I just call out the people in London who think they're good humans. Like, I call it the London Free Press. Like, I call out CBC. You're not reporting on what is actually happening to the citizens who live in that area because of these policies. You're just so busy virtue signaling that the downtown cores of our cities are being destroyed. They're actually destroyed. Like, from what I can see in the cities that I go to, like, I just was up in Pembroke for a trial, and it's an old military city, and I was talking to the downtown because I used to go there all the time. And the one guy, the only business that's still open is a pawn shop on like 150 meters of a downtown core, right? There's the insurance brokerage is gone, the real estate brokerage, they're all kind of gone. And the guy who owned it, he's been there 30 years. He goes, in the last 3 years, we've had 350 residents die of overdose just in this area. And there's not been one story in the newspaper about it, right? Or the story that 80% of businesses have left Main Street. That whole concept of Main Street vibrancy and vitality. Where is London's Main Street today?
Yeah.
What is
and we
London's Main
talk
Street?
about walkable, livable neighborhoods and wanting these to be healthy areas.
Yeah.
You can look at Dundas East and say, oh, it's just a bunch of boarded up stores, but it isn't. People live all above those buildings, and there's towers and apartments right around there.
Kids,
lots of kids. I was astonished when I saw the school buses pulling up and all the kids coming out to go into the Medallion building.
What is London's Main Street, would you say?
Well, Dundas Street, Dundas and Richmond, I think.
Okay, so anybody go down to Dundas and say, what is the health of our Main Street? It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a fairly fit person with a military background, but when I walk down there, like, my head is on a swivel. Like, I would never bring young children there.
No, and a lot of people are saying that, right? So restaurants are doing takeout only because people don't want to bring their families down, and it's affecting people's mental health when they're worried about their car every night because the cars get smashed in the parking lots. When they can't go for a walk, you've got seniors that say they can't go out at night, for an evening stroll.
Or like, we have the beautiful river park and all that. You know what I wanted to give kudos to, because you can't solve a problem unless you can define the problem, right? And I find some of these activist agencies, they want to dictate to everybody what the problem is. And so it's that controlled language again.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when you speak of it, you say homelessness and drug addiction. Because my assessment is it's more drug addiction.
Mostly the drugs. People aren't afraid of poverty.
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
afraid of the mental health and the addiction because of the public safety impacts of it.
Yeah,
And
well,
yet these agencies will criticize me for calling people addicts.
Yeah.
Even though I've met addicts, they call themselves addicts. Their parents call them addicts. You go to the addiction recovery breakfast, they say, I'm an addict. But there's a pro-drug, very strong element here in the city that I wasn't aware of that wants the Vancouver model, that wants people called people who use drugs. You know, they go so far as to say they stand with DULF. If you heard that crazy thing that happened out in BC, it was the Drug Users Liberation Front. And they were getting taxpayer funded money from the NDP government, and they were buying illicit drugs on the dark web, having the University of Victoria test them and then selling them to people. And even the NDP government in BC shut them down. There were criminal charges laid, and we still have some people here in this city who will hashtag I stand with DULF. What they want is compassion clubs where people can go and do tested and pure drugs the way other people can go get a beer or a cocktail.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues. You know, when I've talked to people in there, like a methadone clinic has research that shows it has utility. It can help people. Like methadone can help when it's done well, but safe injection sites, you know, or these sites where they're giving out drugs are just creating a whole industry and neighborhood of drug addicts because nobody recovers from fentanyl by themselves. Like,
Well, there was a methadone clinic, 528 Dundas Street, right across from Beale. It had been there for a long time. And I started to have people who go there calling me and saying, something's happened. All of a sudden, we've got people using drugs right outside. I'm really uncomfortable because I'm worried I'm going to pee dirty because they have to be tested. So they had to walk past these drugs being smoked. I tried to look into it for quite a while. I couldn't confirm that there was a safer supply operating from there. And then CBC published a story last spring to say not only did we have the safer supply at London Intercommunity Health, but now we had one operating out of Chapman's right across the street at 528 Dundas, just down the road, and at City Plaza.
so who authorized that?
Well, this is what I'd like to find out too. I had heard one
God.
was a virtual doctor from BC that was prescribing and people were getting the pharmaceutical drugs that way. The one in City Plaza has just moved to Dundas Place right across from the library.
And they're doing safe injection.
They're doing safer supply. So this is the prescribing the, you know, however many, up to 28 or 29 Dilaudid pills a day. So these are the ones that are causing a lot of concern. Even the police did a big media announcement around it not that long ago saying the concern that they have because the Dilaudids are being used like currency.
Yeah.
And they're also, because they're pharmaceutical grade drugs, kids, and they're cheap, that kids were getting them. And so we were having teens that were now being, it's pharmaceutical grade heroin.
Yeah. It just gives me tingles in terms of how bad it is. I've done work on even some of the methadone clinics. Most people don't know because the buildings look cheap, how many millions the pharmacists and the doctors make out of these clinics. Because when you say prescribing, the government is paying them for the prescription.
Yep.
Right? So this virtual doctor in BC who's prescribing it is getting paid per prescription. He's not getting paid for not prescribing.
Right.
So there's a financial incentive to write more prescriptions.
Yep.
And if you have a person in there that has some questionable integrity, they're going to write a lot of prescriptions, which is going to put a lot of Dilaudid on the street.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
And when I was canvassing, a lot of people in that area talked to me about the safer supply pills and the bottles that they found and the cars that used to pull up behind Chapman's and buy the stuff every morning from the people. That they really saw a change in their neighborhood when that program expanded.
Has there been a story in the London Free Press that's dealing with this issue that you've seen?
As far as I know, only when the police made the public announcement. You know,
yeah.
Adam Zivo's done a lot of talk and written a lot of articles in the National Post. Mm-hmm. But
in our community newsletter,
community.
what I've seen with the London Free Press is they've just become kind of a corporate regurgitator of themes that the Liberal government wanted, right? Like they serve the community. There's no investigative journalist in London trying to figure out who's making, because I always go, who's making money?
yeah.
Whether it's salaries, whether it's grants, or whether it's people prescribing. Like that's how you find out what's really going on, but you can't do it unless somebody investigates it.
Yep. I've wondered that as well. And yet, until just recently, at least, we were a Liberal NDP city in terms of politicians, right? And it looks like that at council as well, because my thoughts are just simple conservative views, and they're seen as very unwelcome within City Hall. So I think that's why the media doesn't question them, is because the politicians, that these are the Liberal NDP drug policies, right? The decriminalization of drugs, the safer supply, the safe injection site. So I'm wondering if that's why the media doesn't question it, because there's no politician talk. There's no politician. We don't talk about what's wrong.
Yeah, but you were trying to talk about what's wrong, and then they put in complaints against you and get you sanctioned.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the problem.
And successfully sanctioned me.
Yeah. And that's where journalism has died. Like, we don't have, I would love to see some ex-police officers like retire and become a journalist.
Yeah.
Like, ones who can actually, not kind of like highly educated people who think they're, in that elite class and just clink glasses with the, you're supposed to dig, find dirt.
Did you see Atrocity that Nigel Stuckey produced?
No.
It's a documentary film. It was at the Forest City Film Festival, and then it's been shown at a few churches and theaters here.
Look that up.
Yeah, Nigel Stuckey, he's a retired London police officer, did a
I
documentary.
know Nigel Stuckey. Yeah. I knew him when I was a Crown.
Okay, yeah. So he did a documentary on homelessness in London.
Oh my God, I got to
Homelessness
reach out
and
to
drug
him.
addiction.
He was a good, that's a must watch for me then, because I know that guy's a good guy, and if he did it. So it was at the London, how was it received?
I wish everybody would see it. I've been on a couple of panel discussions after it, and I've enjoyed those because people need to know what's happening.
I'll put that link
They
in
need
this
to
podcast.
Understand. Yeah. As far as I know, it's not publicly viewable yet, although Nigel said he was talking about doing that soon. Yeah.
He should turn it into a book as well, but good for him.
Yeah. He's working on another one now too. There's stories that need to be told, and like you said, we're not talking about them. All we talk about are the successes, and we're not talking about what's right before our eyes, which is literally devastation and public safety issues in our city.
It's hard to wake people up. The phone is so distracting, and being in your own echo chamber. But like I've been in war zones, and literally like downtown Chatham, downtown Oshawa, Vancouver looks like Grozny. You know what I mean? Or Syria. Like it literally does not look like a civilized country. And yet people are telling us that we're civilized because we're allowing it. And I wanted to ask you, my thoughts are, these well-intentioned people who are just padding their own empires, because they're essentially committing people to a 5-year death sentence, as far as what I can see. Like, we're not actually doing something to help them. They're actually promoting their own sense of morality, while they're just allowing addicts to die in the street over 20 years and have their flesh rot and end up costing per capita. I read one report that for every homeless person, drug addict of fentanyl, between them becoming addicted to fentanyl and them dying is between 4 to 7 years or something like that. And it costs the taxpayer in total $500,000 when you add it all up, right? Like in terms of the palliative care, the police, the damage to the property. Like, think of that. For each person that is a fentanyl addict in the street, costs $500,000 of taxpayer dollars. Like what could we do with $500,000 today if we just gave it to prenatal clinics, to single moms, to drug, like there's so many ways to deal with the issue. And I just want the listeners to know that, like, you're trying to just speak a little truth from a kind and compassionate perspective, and then you get turned into Sauron, or the big, the villain of London.
Yeah, because there's this agenda that is being put through, and I think why we're seeing it in so many cities is it's coming from, the AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and FCM, the federal Canadian municipalities, and these organizations put forward these policies that the cities implement, and they implement it with the federal funding. Mm-hmm. So my input's not welcome. Do you know what I mean? It's all predetermined.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
And so then even if you say, okay, well, let's at least let the public know what they're funding, that's not well received either, because everything's couched in this harm reduction, compassionate kind of wording. But we're really, the last contract that we got $1.3 million from the federal government, and we used it for 12 months. were providing food and drug supplies to the encampments. So that is just, all of a sudden now we've got outreach going out and teaching people how to inhale instead of inject and make sure they've got clean foil or clean needles. And that's $1.3 million.
And food, essentially.
And food.
Keeping the encampments there, like incentivizing them.
Yeah.
Oh, because if you want free drugs and food, just put up a tent wherever you want. Oh my God.
So
this is huge. Not enough people are talking about it. It's buried because a lot of the wealthier people don't care. They're in their own nice neighborhoods with a soccer park and all that for.
Yeah, and you might see somebody inject once or twice, but this is happening all of the time. So people who unfortunately back onto these parks that have the encampments, or the people who, and it becomes an equity issue. In Old East Village, we have a lot of low income, disadvantaged people who don't have an option to go anywhere else, who are forced to, they're trying to get up in the morning and go do their work, and they haven't been able to sleep all night because people are in withdrawal and screaming, or there's fights happening, there's a lot of night activity, or they get up in the morning and their car is broken into again. So many people now leave their car unlocked so that they don't have the damage of a window, but then they don't know if people have been having sex in there or doing drugs in there, and it wears on people's mental health.
Oh my God. So let's just move ahead, because I think we talked about you bringing a voice to these issues, questioning what is compelled thought. Let people know actually what happened to you, because I know there's been a couple of articles, but I don't think people have heard it. I want them to hear from your perspective.
I don't think they've heard it either, because it goes to council a week before Christmas. One happened December 17th and one happened, middle of December. And even my council colleagues don't get the report until the Friday afternoon, and we go to council on Tuesday and they have to vote. But for me, the complaints come in the spring, and then there's been no input. Like even on both of them, I wasn't interviewed. I wasn't given an opportunity to talk about what had happened. I get given the complaint, I do a written response to it, and then they give me their preliminary report. So on the first one, it was around, I'd posted some pictures of some people who were homeless. One of them, I did attempt to cover the face, but I didn't want to cover it completely because I wanted people to see that it was a male. And the caption was, "Where's the help for this person?"
Yeah, and they're in a public space.
And they're in a public space, walking down the middle of the road with the shopping cart full of things. And first, there were complaints from several women agencies around resharing of a Smirconish article that talked about how to solve homelessness. So in that one, they said that I was trying to put people into internment camps, and I wanted to arrest homeless people, which was ridiculous because the article was entitled "How to Solve Homelessness," and it was basically this utopian thing where all levels of government worked together, everybody got a home and whatever treatment they needed, and if a person absolutely refused and insisted on living in the park, they would be arrested.
Yeah, or it's called involuntary care, which is how you save a life. But so people just complained because you put an alternate solution or idea out there.
I got ratioed, which I didn't even know what that was at the time.
We don't know what that is.
Oh, well, it's when more people dislike the tweet than like it.
Yeah.
I think it got 50,000 views in a very short period of time. I made national news on this. Harrison Faulkner put me on his show called Ratioed and did an article or a thing about it. But it was really ridiculous. We had agencies and women, I'll put it in quote, leaders here saying, "Oh, let me be perfectly clear. She just wants to round up homeless people and put them in internment camps." I mean, really, I didn't even know the article said anything about jail until I reread it. For me, it was the whole idea of all three levels work together and everybody gets what they need. But because these women, like I say, in quote, leaders who've been my the most trouble for me, which is interesting too, right? They say they want women in politics, but not a conservative woman, right?
Not somebody who disagrees with them.
No. So, or even questions.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I wasn't even making any big statements. I was just questioning or put this forward. So anyway, and I ended up having an issue with criminal harassment, I think, because of these people saying that I wanted to round people up and put them in internment camps. I ended up getting harassment that went to the level of criminal harassment and had to involve the police.
People were harassing you?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
and threatening me and my family and that kind of thing. But I think it's because they follow some of these women who were saying, we've got this crazy politician who wants to round up vulnerable people and lock them away.
No.
So that was my first foray, and then that was July. So complaints went in to both the Police Service Board and the Integrity Commissioner. And then in September, I did a series of posts with images of homeless people saying, where's the help for these people? And so there was another series of complaints that went in. I was found not guilty on the first, the Smirkonish article, but on the second one, the Integrity Commissioner said that it fell below the standards of the conduct of a city councillor. And so they recommended a formal reprimand. But they never asked me about it. I never had an interview. I didn't even get a chance to do a written response.
On the second one.
On the first, on the second one.
Yeah.
So it went to council, and council voted to reprimand me, even though I said to them they didn't follow our code of conduct. I'm supposed to be told about the complaint. I'm supposed to be given a chance to respond. No one asked me if I even took the pictures. No one asked me if I had permission. And yet council still voted to reprimand.
So to set it up a bit, you're using social media to communicate a problem to your constituency and to ask questions about how we're going to fix this. The people who are benefiting from the current system, like it's not the people in the picture who make the complaint. It's
right.
advocates in these social services agencies or groups who receive the contracts. They make a complaint, and some of the listeners may or may not know that every municipality through provincial mandate has to have an integrity commissioner, which they hire to kind of look at council to make sure they're following their own rules or specific criteria, right?
Yeah.
What are the three criteria they have to observe?
It's things like people would expect, that you can't personally benefit,
Conflicts,
you can't take bribes, that kind of thing. Confidentiality, you're not allowed to share anything that's confidential.
So everybody agrees with that.
Like we all agree on that, right? Yeah. And I understand that I'm not your typical politician, right? I understand that I ran with a mission, with a desire to make a difference in our city and make it better. And we had a 25% voter turnout in my ward. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people say, well, why do you do this? Why do you post it on social media? Most politicians just post ribbon cuttings and retweet the city, right? But that's why a lot of people don't pay attention. If politicians don't really say anything, if we talk in this political language for fear of anybody saying and making us wrong, then people are just going to disengage. So I wanted to do it differently. I don't have a lot of social media experience. I didn't do a lot before I ran, but I wanted to engage with the public. I wanted them to be informed. I really wanted their input on these topics, right? I can put it forward. They can let me know whether they like it, dislike it, and I represent them. But there was a lot of pushback from my colleagues around me doing this. There was a whole article last year on what my colleagues thought about my social media and how everybody thinks it's not the right platform for difficult issues. And I said, well, I think it is the way to engage. I think it is a good way to get feedback, get people involved, get people interested.
Well, it's where people are, right? They're not they're on social media, and and they are at some level interested in their community, but that's just a bunch of gutless people who are just.
Well, a month after, I think so too, but a month after that, the big city mayors, of which our mayor was the chair, put out a big social media campaign around homelessness. So all of a sudden, 2 months after it was unacceptable for me to be doing it or unadvisable, all of a sudden now it was, and they had pictures of homeless people, videos of homeless people. So it really is all about, are you on board with the agenda or are you not? And if you're not, it's silence me at any cost. It feels that way.
Like when you say the agenda, it should be in quotation marks in politics, because there is the agenda.
Yeah.
That came from the Liberal government, and it's come all the way down to our local government, and it's destroying the communities of the people in the downtown core. Yeah. But the people who are in charge of the policies, they don't live there.
That's right.
They're not there. The people who are getting the contracts or making the money, they're not living there. It's just and so you're not like other politicians because you actually care about solutions, not care about looking virtuous.
And I'm not thinking about the campaign, the campaign next year, and I'm not worried about, so if people get upset with me, that's what leadership is, right? Like there's going to be people who aren't going to be happy. And the people who are really happy with me right now weren't very happy with the previous councillor because he had a different philosophy, and that's democracy.
Yeah,
right?
It's the conflict of
but
ideas.
There's this shock that I got in, right? Like how did this happen?
You?
How did this happen? And how can we make sure she doesn't want to do this again, and no one who thinks like her will ever want to do this again, because this makes it very messy. Right.
So just so the listeners all follow, you start sharing your concerns about what's going on in the community in terms of drug addiction and homelessness. And then the very people who get the contracts make a complaint to the integrity commissioner, who ends up writing a report that says that they felt that you fell below the city's integrity guidelines. And say what you said to me about why they thought you fell below.
Well, in the most recent one, which was December 2024, when they recommended a 30-day pay sanction, they said that even though her words and tone are moderated and she sounds respectful, the persistent questioning on the issue of homelessness is experienced by the senior management at the City of London as harassment. So I was found guilty of harassment, bullying, and targeting of city staff.
So this is where our society has lost its frickin' mind. So they say, even though you were respectful, even though you didn't breach anything, somebody felt harassed or offended. And this is where we really need to get into it, because the people who make the complaints against you, because you're questioning their policies, their gravy train, whatever it is, they get interviewed, they say, I feel harassed. So they can effectively silence you and you having an opposing thing by making a complaint against you. And then the complaint is determined based on how they say they feel, not based on what you actually did. So what we are seeing in real time in our politics in our cities is that these people can silence elected officials by saying they feel harassed because they're being questioned.
Right. And this is senior management at the City of London. So understand that the examples that they finally gave me, the complaint came at the end of May. Wow. The only example I got was a social media post where it was a direct copy and paste from a 6-week-old CTV news article. I did add some capital letters, and I did add 3 what I thought were sad emojis. I thought on the issue of encampments that no matter what side of the argument you were on, it was sad at some level. But they interpreted my emojis to be disrespectful to staff, and the fact that
How is it disrespectful to staff that you question encampments? How are they projecting that onto their own inflated ego? Like, it's just thought police.
It is just thought police. And in that integrity commissioner report, it was a long one, and they said twice they made statements of belief on my behalf. So they said, Councillor Stevenson has made it widely known that she objects to the presence of homeless people in the business district of her ward. And I replied back to them, I said, that is absolutely not true, and it's offensive. And I said, and here's all the reasons why it's not true. When they published the final report, they didn't change it. They didn't even put, it seems like she believes this.
Well, they're just echoing the complainant's version of what you said rather than...
About what I believe. I said, if I believe the earth is flat, what does that have to do with the complaint?
Yeah.
Like they put so much in there that was subjective, that
it was a personal attack on your beliefs, but...
Yeah, because I wasn't... They said that the issue of homelessness was... basically, it was already established. Meanwhile, it isn't. It's quite divisive. You've got the Chief Medical Officer of Health last April coming out and saying they supported the Vancouver model. Decriminalize drugs, expand safer supply. Premier Ford came out and said, absolutely not. Totally respect this man and his medical background. We are not going in that direction. Within the province, you've got that. You've got the bureaucracy of the public health that also stand with the Vancouver model. They believe in the decriminalization of drugs, expansion of safer supply. We had the Conservative federal party saying that they wanted no part of that, right? So federally, we've got them supporting the Liberal government supports the Vancouver model. Provincially, they're saying we don't support this. We're going the Alberta model route, recovery-oriented systems of care. But the public health bureaucracy is still with the Liberal NDP government. They want the Vancouver model. So this is sort of the weird place that I find myself in as well, is that it is illegal to use drugs. Prostitution is illegal. And yet our policies support both those things. And when I question them, I'm in trouble. But the ones who are actively working against the laws of this country, that's what's more accepted in terms of federal policy and in terms of municipal council. So I find it really baffling, quite frankly. We endorsed our whole of community system response says that we support a harm reduction model which acknowledges that one of the harms is the criminalization of drugs. So that's so all our contracts, all our social service agencies are supposed to work under that model. And yet I took an oath that says that I will uphold not just the letter, but the spirit of the law, of the current laws. We had a women's agency that was, posting out donations looking for lingerie and heels and makeup and stuff because they were...
For prostitutes?
Yes. And when I questioned it and just said, like, what are we doing? Because this agency was also very pro-sex work. I said, like, how are we protecting women in this?
Well, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
But like if a woman can't afford clothes for sex work, she's probably incredibly disadvantaged. Probably
these
has
are street level addicted women.
Right? Yeah. So they're not able to make the right choice. Like if an educated woman gets a degree and says, hey, I want to do my thing on OnlyFans and they can do it in a safe, that's different. Yeah. But to give it to people who are street level, like
with taxpayer funding.
Oh my God, this is why you have to keep doing what you're doing, Susan. Like honestly, it's why I will sing your praises forever, because I don't think this is really in the public specter of debate. People aren't voting on it. People don't know about it. And it's come down to something has infected our society, and it comes out of this concept called social desirability bias, where people are busy online saying what they think they're supposed to say, not what they really think. Because I was talking to a bunch of doctors the other day, and they can't stand what's going on in the hospitals, in the med schools, in these health units. Like the actual people, they can't stand it. Absolutely terrified to say anything.
Absolutely terrified.
They cannot say anything, but they're and who will stand up and be Spartacus? Like you stood up and you were Spartacus. I don't know if you ever watched that movie. I love that movie, but like you stood up and said, "This is ridiculous. We can't keep pretending that this isn't an issue." And the problem is that you weren't surrounded by other courageous people, right? Nobody else stood up beside you and said, "I'm Spartacus." What I wanted to ask you though is
my hope is the opposite. That I'm going to walk through this fire. They can put headlines: "I'm unhinged," "I'm dangerous," "I'm all this kind of stuff." That I'm going to walk through the fire and show people that you don't get burnt. Like we need more people to run next year in 2026 that don't necessarily think like I do, but they're willing to think and debate and come up with the best ideas. Like to actually have the debate and the discussion over these serious issues.
Well, I will be supporting you for mayor 100%, and you better run for mayor, and I'm going to make sure that we help you at some level through my marketing company too on your social media so more people can see you, and I will pro bono represent you if anybody comes after you again, because I cannot let them... there's that phrase, the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
Like there's a king and you can't tell him that something's gone wrong, but it's almost the bureaucracy has no clothes. Yeah. Like you can't tell the agencies how out of touch they are with reality. And if you do, they'll try to throw you in some sort of virtual jail, because in the end you lost salary because you dared to question these liberal these agencies' policies that are just perpetuate. Like the trend of downtown cores and addiction is going this way. Yeah. It is going down. Yeah. It is not going up. And if you don't have the frickin' brains to say, we've been doing this for 10 years and our cities look 10 times worse, the numbers are huge. They don't care about the community. They care about their budgets. They care about their influence, and they have forsaken the communities they're supposed to serve, and they will attack anybody who does it. And we need to build an army to fight that, because I just see everybody leaving the downtown. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really tragic situation.
Tell me what the scariest thing that's happened to you while you've been on this kind of crusade to bring awareness to this issue. Like personally, I know you and your family have gone through a lot, and you're a humble person who doesn't bring attention to it. But like, what has been the thing that has been like the most disturbing or scary for you to experience?
That's a good question. I think truly it is the Integrity Commission, that last report from the Integrity Commissioner and the Ontario Civilian Police Commission. I was admonished by them as well. And there's just comments made in there that go beyond facts. Like I expect from these organizations to say, you did X, you shouldn't do it again. This is it. But instead, there's this maligning of me, my character. There's comments made that say they don't think I'm capable of upholding the code of conduct, that this last report said they didn't offer training because they didn't think it would be effective because I didn't seem to be self-aware of my impact on others. Like all of these crazy kind of comments that are allowed to be put in writing about a person when I wasn't even interviewed as part of this investigation.
It's testament to your character, because most people would answer that question saying, hey, I've had a lot of threats, when I called the police on criminal harassment, like, I'm downtown, you know what I mean? Like, personally, I'm at risk. But you didn't say that. The scariest thing to you was intellectual and thoughtful. It's that it's terrifying to see how the organizations can misuse the systems to stop thinking. Yeah. Like, that's actually terrifying to people who care. And so that answer, I think, is wonderful in terms of how you're thinking about the community. And so I want people to hear your message, to support you, and to try and get more people to stand up for doing what's right. I know you're speaking at West Social Club later this month on community issues. I certainly encourage you to stand and keep fighting. And if you need me, I will be there at any time. More socials.
Yeah.
More socials.
More social. It's going to have to be, because I told people, it's okay. I know you're afraid to speak because you have a business, because you have a job, you have kids that, would get harassed. I said, I'm the elected official. I'll speak. And then I find out I'm not allowed to speak. Well, right? Like, how crazy is that? In a free democratic country, I'm a duly elected city councillor speaking on behalf of the pain in my ward. It's not like I want to change the green in London signs to purple. This is the pain of the people that is visible to anybody who's willing to slow down and look at Dundas East. Mm-hmm. And I'm not allowed to question. I'm not allowed to see the 8-line budget for an agency that gets millions of dollars. I'm not allowed to say, why doesn't that agency that's getting $50,000 a month not have beds for women? Why is it not operating that way? Can I find out how many people are being helped in this building? How many hours are they open? And that's considered bullying and harassment, is what some of these agencies have put out publicly lately. They've posted on social media saying that that's bullying and harassment by me, that I'm questioning what they're doing when they're in dealing with a crisis.
The scariest bullies, and I'll say this, are the stupid ones. Like a smart bully, there's some you can rationalize with a smart bully. Like, they'll make a decision in accordance with game theory, they'll back off. But the stupid bullies are the ones who just don't care about the answers. The way that you're being bullied by these people who seem mindless, but just wrapped up in their own world, is crazy, because you can't rationalize with them. You can't say, hey, look, I'm not really being a bully here. We both want our community to be better. Yeah. We have different perspectives on how to do it, but I want to bring some light onto this. And when they attack you like that, to me, it goes back to their currency. Yeah. And their currency is either contracts or they're standing in their community. And so that's why they're doing it, because you're attacking their currency, you're not attacking the community. And that's why you have to fight. You will not walk alone. Yeah. I will marshal whatever resources we can to help you keep being respectful, thoughtful, inquisitive, and talking about what we need to talk about in our cities. I'll put a link, if I can get one, for Atrocity in our bio, and I encourage everybody to follow you, to support you.
There's a great Aaron Gunn documentary that just came out. I think it's called Canada's Deadliest Scandal. Mm-hmm. And it's about safer supply, features a lot of what's going on in London. I'm in it in 2 short pieces. Andrew Lawton's in it.
Good for
There's
him.
Dr. Koivu is in it. And it's really important to understand the impacts of safer supply in our city, I think.
And nobody's talking about fentanyl either, and how the fentanyl production has moved from Mexico into Canada.
Yeah.
And the Sinaloa cartel has taken advantage of what's happened in Vancouver. And a lot of fentanyl production now is not happening in China or Mexico. It's happening in our West Coast because we've allowed that society to crumble into what looks like a war zone. And so now they can do whatever they want. And that fentanyl is coming right across Canada. It's killing. More people died of fentanyl overdoses than COVID during COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to care. We need to do more. We need more people like you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I love you as a human being. I wish you the best, and we will talk again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.